What's up, guys? Welcome to episode 2 of the SamCast. I'm Sam here, and I thought I'd start off today's episode with probably a better introduction of me. If you didn't already know, my name is Sam. That should be pretty obvious, but if not, there you go. I am a 19-year-old college student, so I'm essentially broke and an idiot in everyone's eyes. And sometimes I think both are pretty true. I'm from small town Virginia, and I go to school at James Madison University, where I am studying sport and recreation management. Um, you know, unless you're really into sports, it's not that interesting. Um, and even then, it's all about the business of sports, and that's kind of a topic that can either bore people or, if you're like me at all, really excite you. So to go jump into today's episode, I heading into recording this, I really didn't have many good ideas, but it's back to school season, and I felt that I should talk about my summer. So this summer has been, for me at least, it's been extremely busy. I have been all over the place. I have between vacation and my internship, and I was taking coaching classes during the summer, and it has just been ridiculous. I literally have no way, I have no idea how I survived this summer. Maybe because I wasn't doing anything, well, I was doing school related stuff. Maybe because I wasn't at school, maybe it just felt like I wasn't doing as much. And I did have quite a few off days, you know. My internship was only once every 2-3 days at most, you know. But it's kind of hard because when you do an internship that's an hour and a half away from your house, that's a lot of driving. Um, I spent a lot on gas money. I was just, it felt constant, me driving. Like I was always driving. And don't get me wrong, I don't have an issue with driving. I actually enjoy driving. And as I went over in the last episode, that really helped me start listening to podcasts more and really get into podcasting, and helped me solidify this idea that I should start a podcast. But aside from that, I went on vacation. I went to Ohio, Pennsylvania, and then my family cabin. So during the summer, I spent like 2.5 weeks on vacation, which isn't bad. Considering how busy my family is, it's hard enough for us to all find a week that, okay, let's go out and let's do something somewhere. And then working at my internship, basically from the past 2 months, it literally just ended this past week, working baseball games, a couple times every week. It was brutal, but I loved it. I got to meet some really cool people working at my internship, and even though I didn't get paid, I felt like I got a lot of knowledge. You know, I got some cool gear as a result of working for a baseball team, which honestly I didn't know I was going to get. Um, but they treated me well. I learned a lot, and I really think that experience was really good for me. So when interning in Charlottesville, if anyone knows anything about Charlottesville, it's that there are two things that Charlottesville loves: UVA and sports. Like, they are all about, like, people who live in Charlottesville, that's all they care about is UVA and sports. At least to me, that's what it feels like sometimes. Because, like, everyone in town is such a fan of UVA and a fan of sports. And with the baseball team I worked for being one of like no teams outside of UVA. Like UVA is the only sports thing they have in Charlottesville outside of this baseball team. And I'm sure there's more, but like out of all the things I learned about, those were like the only two like organizations that had sports related things. So Charlottesville, man, they are crazy into their sport teams. Like everything's all about UVA. The Tom Sox are, I would say, they're pretty popular within town. A lot of regular fans would come to every game, and I just, it just, I can't even. I'm at a loss for words because it bewildered me just how into the town everyone is. Like people who live in Charlottesville, and even if they're just going to UVA, they love Charlottesville. And it's I don't know what it is, and like, but they just are so into the town that it's almost infectious. Like by the end of the summer, I was like, Charlottesville's looking pretty nice. And don't get me wrong, I love my school. I love JMU. But to be honest, while I have no intention of ever transferring or going to UVA, the people there make it really, like really nice. And it seems like this really awesome place. And I've never been I had until this summer, I had never really been to Charlottesville very much. It's not something it's not a place I go to very regularly. So like I didn't know. I didn't understand. And after being in Charlottesville for a lot of my summer, I kind of get it now. I get why people like it. It's a nice town, great people and you know, people who are very passionate about the town. And sometimes I wish more places were like it. And I think, outside of Virginia, I haven't seen very many places that are like Charlottesville or Harrisonburg where I go to school, where they're just so into the town, so into everything that goes on, that it's just like, wow, it was infectious. It's infectious being in Charlottesville and to be like, oh, this is what they're all about. And don't get me wrong, there were some very interesting characters there. But overall, the people were great. Um, Also, as I also already mentioned, I took a whole bunch of coaching classes. I am officially a licensed soccer coach, which, in my opinion, is really cool. Um, I started to work on getting licensed when I've been trying to apply for high school coaching jobs up near JMU. Not too much success, but at least with me getting licensed, I think that will help me, if not now, in the future. Um, don't get me wrong, it's not the easiest thing to go and be thrust into a situation with people that you've never met before. But as one of my instructors for my US Soccer D license course, which I'm currently taking, he told me you got to become comfortable with the uncomfortable. And to be honest, that's ever since I heard that, it's kind of something that has stuck out with me. I think of this idea of being comfortable with the uncomfortable. It's just kind of like you're okay with whatever comes your way. You don't have to be, comfortable all the time. And that you are so cool with these weird, different, and sometimes downright awkward situations that you can play it cool. You're super relaxed about it and you don't get worked up about it. I get worked up about a lot of things. Even simple, tiny little things that don't mean anything, I get worked up about. And I've kind of realized that it's okay to be worked up, but you got to work on it. And in the context of coaching soccer, it doesn't matter what's going on. You have to become comfortable with, things that you can't control. Sometimes something happens that throws you off your game. Something happens that puts you back, and you just are like, okay, that's not what I was expecting. But you have to become comfortable with that. You have to be ready. And it's not just coaching, it's with life in general. I think working a job is a really great example of this. You never know what's going to happen. You could have the world's easiest job, and then the next day your boss comes in and is like, hey, I'm putting these new, more difficult things on you. Get used to it. And sometimes it's like, oh, this is happening. And you got to learn how to fight through that. You got to learn how to get yourself comfortable with the idea of doing things that you're not used to doing. You know, um, becoming comfortable with the uncomfortable. I think it's a great, I think it's something that a lot of us need to know and need to understand, but we just don't. You know, it's this idea that we live in a society that has become, I think personally, it's become more awkward. And for whatever reason, I'm not going to dive into why, we a lot of people become very uncomfortable in situations. There something happens, they're thrust into something that they weren't expecting, and they feel like they can't do it anymore. If to put it simple, think about like dating. Dating can be very awkward, and some people just don't do well with dating. They don't do well with trying to, you know, be romantic or trying to, going on dates can be a scary thing for some people, you know. And if you become comfortable with being uncomfortable, you can work through that. Now, it's much easier said than done, but I think if you can become comfortable with the uncomfortable, or even if you already are comfortable with the uncomfortable, you're on the right track. You know, I don't know how to work through that. I don't know how you can become better at being comfortable with the uncomfortable other than maybe just thrusting yourself into situations that you're not used to, you know? Maybe you are in a class situation and, maybe instead of working with the person you always work with, try working with someone different. Or maybe volunteer to do something you almost never would. Whether it's speaking in class, giving a presentation first, thrusting yourself into these uncomfortable situations. And if you can tackle it, awesome. If you don't, do better next time. I don't think there's any better advice than to just keep trying and keep working to get better. Because to be honest, when it comes to something like this, it's not just, you can't just you just can't become comfortable with the uncomfortable. It's something that you have to work through over time, and whatever you think on this, do that. I'm not, I'm not a reliable source to get advice from. I'm not like a psychologist or psychiatrist or any sort of reliable person who's like, this is how you get over this. This is just my thought. This is just my opinion. And I think there's nothing wrong with that. But if there is, I guess it doesn't matter. You know, not everyone's going to like everything I say. But, in retrospect, becoming comfortable with the uncomfortable is something I think we all can learn from. I think it's something that no matter who you are or where you come from or what you're doing, it's something that I think we all can relate to because it's easy to say, but it's hard to do. And a lot of that is because, you know, and for whatever reason that is for everyone, because I'm sure it's different for everyone. We just got to get used to it. And now for a break. Have you ever thought about making your own podcast, but you didn't know how to do it? Have you ever had a great idea and you just were like, man, I wish I could make this podcast idea just happen? Well, that's where Anchor comes in. With Anchor is the easiest way to make a podcast. They give you all the tools to create your own podcast to how you want it to sound, and even better, they will distribute it to every platform. Well, maybe not every platform, but all the big ones and a lot more. And it gives you everything that you need for free. That's right, free. There is no payment that you have to make to get started. And guess what? You can easily make money through, sponsorships and there's no minimum listenership. So literally, if you only have one person listening, you can still be making money. That's right. So go download the Anchor app or go to anchor.fm to get started. So, and finally, as my summer comes to an end, I move back into school in less than a week. I'm excited, I'm nervous, I'm kind of all of these things, but the reality is summer's pretty much over for me. This week I'm going to be spending packing, trying to get all these things done last minute for me to get ready. And, I'm not worried about going back to school, at least not for classes. I think I'm good with my classes. I'm excited for my classes. I think this semester is going to be really fun for me. At least I hope it is. And in reality, I'm probably going to be busy, but probably not insanely busy. Coming off back in the spring, I was taking 16 credit hours. I was working 2 jobs, I was working, 12 to 15 hours a week normally, taking, 16 credit hours and having to do homework and projects. It just felt like nonstop I was working and working. And it was kind of hard. So I'm hoping that this semester is a little bit more, maybe not necessarily less work and less class, but I have more time to be able to relax. More time where I can take a break from homework or maybe if I am not working on a particular day, I'm just like, I can have an evening to myself, or maybe I can just work ahead on assignments. And, that's kind of a difficult thing for me to plan out because I'm not really a planner. I'm a mental checklist kind of guy. I don't do well with writing things down. I can't make a schedule. I memorize my schedule and I'm like, okay, I have this day and I have this that day. And doing work is the same way. I'm like, okay, I have this assignment due this day. So if I start working on it now, if I spend this amount of time working on it now, I should be good. Or if I get to this point, I should be in good shape. And that's how essentially I live my life. It's how I do all my work. It's how I go through my life, especially now that I do everything mostly by myself. Even though right now I'm at home, I do things on my own schedule. I plan things the way I would if I were at school because what I'm responsible for personally is things I do my way. I can't control if I have to do something at home that I wasn't expecting to do, you know? And I think that having a schedule is great. If you like having a schedule, awesome. Good for you. That you're probably better than me at getting stuff done anyway. But it's just not how I roll. I can't work like that personally. And I'm okay with that. You know, I'm sure it has bitten me in the butt before, and I doubt that it won't happen again. I'm sure at some point I will forget to do something, or I'll forget, you know, maybe I just forget to do a homework assignment and I have to take an F on that. Hopefully, I wouldn't forget something like that, but it's not impossible. So, but going back to school, it's new year. I'm excited, and hopefully I can have fun. At some point, I'm sure I'll talk more about my school life and how it's been and how it's going. But for now, I'll just leave it at that. You know, I'm excited, ready to go back. Hopefully, it won't be too bad to start off, even though I'm a little concerned about a couple things. I'm also I'm pretty comfortable with like my class schedule, my housing situation. Hopefully, I'll be able to have a car up there, but I'm currently in the process of figuring that out. Well, to end off this podcast, I honestly think I'm just going to talk about, you know, my thoughts on back to school season. Right now, as I've mentioned already, it's back to school season. Summer's pretty much over. And if it's not over for you yet, it's going to be over soon. It's just that time of year. I kind of like this time of year. It's kind of like, okay, we've had our fun. Summer's been great, but I'm ready to go back and start doing some stuff now. Now, don't get me wrong, school may not be my favorite thing on planet Earth, but, ever since I went to JMU and started going to JMU, I've been pretty happy about it. I'm liking school a bit more, and I think a lot of it has to do with I'm taking classes I want. I'm not doing things that I don't want to do, and I get to live my life the way I want to live my life. You know, if I don't want to do something, I don't have to do it. If there's a class that I don't have to take, I'm probably not going to take it, you know, unless it's a major class. I'm not going to take it unless I really want to take it. So, you know, living in college, being at school, it's been a different experience, but it's been an experience I've liked. And, if you're still in high school, or if you're in middle school, or heck, if you're even in elementary school and listening to this for some reason, you know, you should be excited for what's to come. Because even if you don't go to college, even if, you just go to work or go to community college, or heck, go to the military, there's a lot to look forward to after, after high school, and when you grow older, and when you're old enough to make your own decisions. There's a lot of exciting things that you can do. And, if you want, take your time. There's no rush. If you want to graduate high school, then just take a year to, maybe work, make some money, and just try and figure out what your next step is. There's nothing wrong with that. Take your time. Going to college is expensive. It's something that, you know, I wanted to do because I knew that if I didn't get a college degree, I I would be insecure about my job prospects. You know, even basic jobs are like, well, you should have some sort of certification, some sort of education. Even if I hadn't gone to school, I probably would have done some sort of educational track, like I'm doing now with getting my coaching license, becoming a licensed coach and working more towards that. Like, it's not just getting a college degree. You can get certified. You know, if you want to work in the food industry, you know, there are certifications that you should get so that you can work in those positions. You can go to culinary school if you want to become a chef, or there's technical school if you just want to focus on doing, a trade. College really isn't for everyone. And I don't know why we've built this society up to where everyone thinks that this is required. We have to do this. College is an option. It's a choice. No one has to go to college if they don't want to go to college. You know what? And I feel like we live in a society where nowadays we focus too hard on everyone being successful. And because how society thinks of success is different from how I think of success or how each individual thinks of success. As a society, we think success is becoming rich and famous and you own a multi-billion-dollar company. And the reality is, that's not success. Maybe that's success to that person who owns that multi-billion-dollar company. Maybe that's success to people who think about, these artificial happiness makers, you know, things that don't really last. Money doesn't last. Value is subjective. Even monetary value is kind of subjective. It's based off of things that we don't always control. You know, there are probably people who have so many better business ideas and have so many excellent ideas and are smarter than the people who run like Facebook and Google and Amazon. But they don't have the power. They don't have the following that those companies and other billion-dollar corporations have. They just haven't gotten their break yet, and sometimes you won't. Sometimes it's just luck of the draw. There are plenty of people with excellent business ideas, excellent product ideas, and they just never get off the ground. You know, but if you make something that you're happy with, if you do something that makes you happy, do it. To me, that's what success is. I wouldn't be doing this. I wouldn't be making a podcast if it didn't make me happy, if it didn't make me, think more of myself. And I just love that I can do this. I love that I can go get my coaching license. I love that I can go to school and get a degree. But if you don't love it, you really shouldn't do it. Now, if it's to do something that helps you get to something that you love, then maybe you should think about doing it. But you should never do something because it makes you more money or that it makes you get more of these superficial things and these things that don't last. As I say, these artificial happy makers. It, you know, to me, money doesn't bring true happiness. Buying things doesn't bring me true happiness. Now, it might lead me towards something that makes me happier. It might lead me towards something that I can feel really good about. I'm like, I love doing that. But the money itself is not what makes people happy. Maybe you buy a present for a child, or you buy something for your parents or your sibling, and you give it to them. And the satisfaction that you see and how happy they are makes you happy. Maybe you work a job and you help a little child have a great day. That would make me happy. Success isn't defined by money. It's not defined by all these dumb, stupid things that make no sense. To me, it's defined by how happy you are. It's defined by, do you feel satisfied with where you are? Are you satisfied with what you're doing, how you're living your life? And if the answer is yes, then keep doing it. You know, when I started this podcast, I listed it as a comedy podcast. But to be honest, I feel like I've been more deep in these 2 episodes that I've made so far than funny. And you know what? I'm okay with that. It doesn't need to be funny all the time. And, if you want more humor, I guess just have to bring a guest on because, these single episodes, it's kind of hard to be super funny all the time. It's kind of hard to be funny when you don't 100% know how to be funny. To me, I love this self-reflective, the self-reflective view that I'm getting because a lot of this is just flowing out of my mouth as I'm doing this. Like, as of right now, I have no idea what I'm saying next. I'm just saying stuff, and I'm hoping that it makes sense. And I think it is. And to be honest, I'm happy with how this has gone. This has been the SamCast. See you next time.